web services and why we need web services. So let me share my screen. Okay. Okay. So web services. So what is a web service? Okay. So web service is nothing but a communication between two systems. Okay. So web service is used to communicate communicate two systems with each other over internet. Okay. So to use the web service we need the internet. Communication between two systems over internet. Okay. So let's say we have different systems like S4H and A4H. Okay. So between these two systems, if we want to send any data or if we want to communicate any information, then we need a web service. Okay. So and to use the web service we need the internet also. So web service can be can be accessed through HTTP call. Okay. So everyone knows about HTTP and all those, right? So I'll not discuss about that in detail, but we have different web services. Okay. So like application services we have, and like different types of web services we have. Okay. So So in that web services, we have different types of web services. In that we have SOAP services and REST web services. Okay. So a SOAP service is nothing but we can use a SOAP service to communicate between different systems in decentralized manner and distributed landscapes. Okay. So SOAP web service has XML format. Okay, we can communicate using the XML format, and we can use via HTTP protocol or SMTP or FTP. We can use these type of different types of protocols we can use for the communication. Okay, so in this SOAP we have long language called WSDL. That is WSDL. This is nothing but web service description language. Okay. So in SAP we can use soaps like SUA services or RESTful web services. Okay. So in SAP if we want to use the SOAP services we can access it through T code called SUA manager. Okay. So this is the T code in SAP. And for the REST web services we can use OData services, and this OData service can be created via gateway, SAP gateway, or using CDS or using CDS views. Okay. So this is T code we can use SEGW, or using CDS view we can create OData services. Okay. So SOAP services we can use to connect between SAP to non-SAP system as well. Okay. So using the SOAP services, we can connect the SAP system to non-SAP system and non-SAP system to SAP system. Okay. So there will be different configurations will be there, so we can use those configurations and we can access it. So SOAP service, the data will be in the XML format, and for the REST web services it can be JSON format or XML format we can use. Okay. So next, sorry. So to access the SOAP web services, we have some prerequisites. Okay. So to access this, we need to have some authorizations we need to have, and some nodes also we need to activate some nodes also. Okay. So SICF is the T code to activate the business functions. So in this SACF transaction, we need to activate few of the nodes, that is like SAP, BC, SRT. Sorry. So this is one node, and other node like WebDyn Pro, SAP, BC, WebDyn Pro, SAP application, SOAP management. Okay, so these nodes has to be activated in the system to use your SOA services. Okay. So next, we need to have the HTTP settings also we need to have. Okay. So all those we have to maintain those settings in the system. Like that will be like configuration we need to do for accessing the SOAP web services. Okay. So today I'll discuss more about the OData services. Okay. So 1 minute. Okay. So I'll show you the OData services, how we can create and how we can use in the system. Okay. So the T code for creating the OData services, that is using the gateway SCGW. Okay. Other way is we can create it using the CDS view also. We can create the OData service. Okay. So it's taking time to load. Just wait. Okay. So here we can, if we already have one project in the gateway service, we can use that project. Otherwise we can just create a new project. Okay. So here we need to mention the project name. The test data data service, and I'll just save it in the local object. So to access the OData service through gateway, SAP gateway, we need to have a project. Okay, SAP gateway project, we need to have one project. In this project also we'll be having data model. So this data model and the MDG data model will be different. Okay. So in this we have data model. So in this data model, this is also the structure of your OData gateway project. So here we can maintain our entity types and any associations or entity sets. So here we can maintain the entity types, that is nothing but the structure of your OData information and the association. So let's say you have different entity types. So you want to connect those two entity types with you want to connect those two entity types, then we can use the association between the entities. Okay. Next, entity type will have only single uh, record. It can hold only single record at a time. But entity set, it can hold multiple records at a time. Okay. So let's say this acts as the work area and entity set acts as the internal table in SAP ABAP. Okay. So next we have service implementation. And then we have runtime artifacts and service maintenance. Okay, so this runtime artifacts is nothing but whenever we create any entity type, new entity type, then the OData this project will generate runtime artifacts. That is nothing but the classes to maintain the to maintain the structures or to to write the logic for the payloads, and all those information will be in the runtime artifacts. Okay, these are generated when we uh, generate this project. Okay, then we have service maintenance. So let's say you have this project in your SAP system A4H. So you want to use this service to communicate with to other systems. So you should have one service, right, to access to other system or to send it to the other system. So it will act as a transport. Like let's say you want to commute from one location to other location, then you need to have one vehicle or something, right? So that vehicle is nothing but a service in SAP. Okay, so service in this web services. So here for each gateway project, we need to maintain some service. Okay. So first let's create one entity type here. Okay. So now it is empty. So let me just check any SAP structures we already have in the system so that I can use that structure here. Z star. Mm, okay. So this address. Okay. Here we have one structure like address. So I'll use this one. Just right click, create here data model. We can directly create the entity types here, or we can import from the DDIC structure. Okay, so I'm just going through DDIC structure. That is nothing but the SE11 structure we have created. So here the name of the entity type we want to use. So I'll put address. Okay, and that is entity type. And here the ABAP structure the address. Okay, and create default entity set. So if you want to use it as internal table, like if your entity type has to hold multiple records, like let's say we have uh, 10 employees in one company. So if we want to communicate the address of 10 employees at a time, then we can use the entity set. Otherwise, if we want to do only one record at a time, then we can go with the just entity type. No need of entity set. Okay. So I am clicking on the create default entity set so that we can communicate multiple records at a time. Now, here it will ask to choose the fields from the structure. Okay, so I am just selecting select all and next. Okay, so it is asking, is it a key field? Yes, it is a key field. Okay, now it created the entity type and the entity set. Okay, now I'm just saving this project. Now it is saved. If you see here now, we got the entity type and entity set, but the runtime artifact is still, this is not yet created or generated. So now let me just click on this generate runtime artifacts. Okay. Now it will generate the model provider class and data provider class and the service registration. That is nothing but one model and one service. Technical model name and technical service name. If you want, you can change the names. So these are the names generated by the system directly with ZCL and Z test. OData is our service like gateway project name, and MPC extension, that is class name, and this is the base class MPC. And same like model provider class, we have data provider class and we have service name and the model name. Okay, so if we want to change these names, we can change, otherwise we can click on continue and save. So I am saving in the local object, so it will ask for each of the class. Okay. Now, if you see, runtime artifacts generated successfully, model provider base class, extension class, data provider class, service, and model. Okay. So now, if you see here in the runtime artifacts, we got DPC class, DPC extension class, MPC, MPC extension, model, and service. Okay. So now we have these artifacts. Now we need to register this service in the ICF node. That is nothing, that is internet communication framework. So once we register the service in the ICF node, then only we can use this service for the communication. Okay, without this service activated in the ICF node, we cannot use this service for the communication. Okay, so now we need to maintain this service. Okay, so this service we need to maintain. So let me just copy this service name, and to maintain the service, we can go with this here from here, or we have T code, that is IWFND. Okay, and to access all these internet related interface related frameworks, we need to use /o or /n before accessing it. Okay, then only it will open. main service. Okay. So now here we need to add our service and activate that service. Okay. So I'll just go to add service, system alias. I'll give local and the technical service name. This is the service name. I'll just click on search. Now this is the service name we want to register. Okay. So I'll click on this one. Sorry. Okay. So now the package and model name and everything. Okay. So I'm selecting continue button. So the service was created and its metadata was loaded successfully now. Okay. So now we have the service. So where is our service? Z test. Let me click on find. Control V and search. Okay. So here we have our service. This is our service. Okay. So if you see here, the service is now active. Okay. Let me just click on this ICF node and activate. So it is ICF node OData for service Z test OData service is active. And let me go to this configure SICF. Okay. So here we have the path of our OData is SAP, OPU, OData, SAP and our project name. Okay. So this is the path. So now we have created the service. So that we can access, we can communicate between the systems using this service. Okay. So now let me open this MPC and show you how these classes will be generated and how we can use this. Okay. So these classes have multiple methods in this. Okay. So here we have redefinitions and inherited methods. So if you want to use any of this method, then we have to right click on that method and we have to do redefine, then we can use that method. Okay. So why we need these methods? So now for OData, why we need OData service? To communicate between systems. Okay. So now how we communicate using the payload. Okay. With OData service and the payload. Payload is nothing but the information which we want to communicate between the systems. Okay. So this will be in payload can be in XML format or JSON format. Okay. So first to access the OData, we need to have one service and we need to have a payload. Okay. Now we have defined the service. Now let's say why this payload, like why we need that entity types, entity sets and the classes. So let's say you are receiving some data from other system to your system. Then you need to have one structure or one placeholder to hold the data, right? So that's why we need entity types and entity sets and the data model in the OData project. And to accept that payload and to write our own logic or to do some modifications to the data we are receiving, we need to do some code changes, right? So that code changes, to accept that payload and to do the code changes or to do any custom logic, we need to have one placeholder for the logic, right? So that placeholders are nothing but classes runtime artifacts generated. Okay, so in this we use dpc class and dpc extension class to do the code changes for code changes. Okay, so MPC and MPC extension we use further. These are the model providers. That is nothing but what's the structure of our OData and what are all the attributes we have in the OData that will give uh, this MPC and MPC extension class will give that model of our like OData. And DPC and DPC extension are data provider classes. That is nothing but for any communication of the data, we use this DPC extension or DPC classes. Okay. So next, this OData service, we can do actions like get, post, update, delete, like these actions we can use. So how we do those actions is, let me go to this service maintenance. Let me. So for the communication or to access the payload, the T code is IWFND gateway GW client. GW underscore client. So this is the T code for the OData actions. So gateway client. CLIENT. Gateway client. Yeah. So this is the gateway client. Okay. So SCGW is the gateway builder and IWFND maintain service is to maintain the service, and IWFND gateway client is for the communication, like the actions which we perform. So that we call as the HTTP protocols. Okay, so what are different types of HTTP methods we can use in gateway is get method, post method, put, that is nothing but the update, patch, merge, delete, and head. Okay, these are the different HTTP methods we can use in the OData. Okay, get is nothing but if you want to send any information, then we use the get. And next, post. Post is nothing but post means like we receive the information using post, right? Like if any mail information or anything, we receive it through the post services, right? So that is nothing but post. So with this post method, we receive the information. And put and delete is like if you want to update the data, then we use the put. If we want to do delete operations, then we use the delete. Okay. So here we have request URL. This is a URL which will be used for the communication between two systems. So this with this path will be communicating within the systems. Okay, so here this is the place where our OData will be stored, like OData project or the service will be stored. So it is in the SAP. We go to that SICF. So here our service name is Z test OData service, right? So this is the part OData under that SAP. OData, SAP, and this is our service. Okay. So now let me go to this entity set. We have created the address entity set, right? So that will be shown here. So here we have address set. So using this format, we can we can access get, post, put, or delete. All these HTTP methods we can access. Okay. So are you able to understand, or any questions you have?
Sadhna, I mean, if you
Yeah.
can show any one example in the system, like, okay, this is something which we are connecting from one system to another, that would be great.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to check that, but I don't have any like live projects now in the system. So I can show, but like tomorrow or Friday. Yeah, Friday I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay. So from tomorrow I'll be just uh, I'll show all the real time examples. Okay. First, let me stop the recording.